Down the Barrel starts now.
Howdy, folks. We're on episode 19, Down the Barrel here. Myself, Ben from Canada Guns and Movie Armaments Group. And as always, Michael Stone.
Hello.
Big thanks to all our sponsors. Savage came out huge, donated a bunch of guns and supported. Really glad to have them on board. Beretta has been going strong for the last year with us. Really appreciate their support. Vortex, always a valued sponsor. High quality optics, veteran owned. They've been great. And Stittsville Shooting Range, always good to have their support as well. So what's new this week with guns there, Michael?
This week I was listening to a podcast about an interview with the new Ruger CEO, who is now managing Merlin, and they finally announced their lineup of new Merlin lever action rifles coming out this year. So they've announced that the first one coming back out will be the 1895 and 4570, followed by an 1894 and 44 and 357. So finally get some high quality lever actions back in Canada, hopefully like Q4 this year, kind of going into next year.
Yeah, you got to think the product quality control will be good with Ruger there, eh?
Absolutely. I mean, they've invested a ton of money. I think they've replaced a lot of really old, broken down machinery. It was really incredible. They were talking about how a lot of modern manufacturing, you can like the lean manufacturing process, where they really try and eliminate overstock and look for efficiencies. And Merlin back in the day was doing none of that. So they've brought Merlin kind of into the 21st century, applied modern manufacturing techniques. But interestingly, they're going to keep going with the traditional manufacturing methods that they're using in terms of how they're making their receiver actions. They're not going to do like classic Ruger style castings.
Oh, yeah.
So the guns will look the same, just made under proper quality control.
Yeah, and you got to think they'll do some cool things in the years to come after they get it spun up and kind of have some new cool models out, right?
Absolutely.
Today we're wrapping up the fall classic with the CUSF here. So great to have participation from a variety of clubs across the country, shooting trap and skeet. So we'll be compiling the scores here and announcing the winners. So excited to see that. And we're rolling on with the rest of our shotgun leagues and rifle leagues throughout the year. So keep on getting your scores in there, fellas. Nice to see some activity out of the clubs again. Lots of events going on. Anything out in BC happening these days?
BC, we are currently lining up a couple of RPAL courses for November. And our local range, Port Coquitlam District Hunting and Fishing Club, is doing their annual pumpkin shoot on November 7th. So try to come blow up some pumpkins and raise some money for charity. It's a great time.
Fucking right. Yeah.
Definitely recommend slugs and buckshot are definitely the most effective. You fill a pumpkin with water. Yeah, it's good fun.
Make them pop.
Yeah.
Very festive. Awesome. Well, yeah. So Ben, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and what you got yourself into with MAG and Canada Guns?
Yeah, for sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and chat with you guys. Little bit about me, I guess I just sort of fell into a lot of the opportunities that I've had over the past couple of years. Guns for me have always been a really fun sporting thing, from summer camp to, my dad and my grandfather taking me shooting with pellet guns and all of these things. Like just through the years, it kind of was something I enjoyed to do. So when given the opportunity to work at a shooting range, for example, I jumped on it, and that just sort of seemed to be a natural fit. So I worked at a range in the area for a couple of years. And then, my family and a couple of people are also that I'm close with are into film production in the local scene here in Toronto. So I got sort of my feet wet in the industry, I guess you could say, running pylons around the city for different film shoots and just lugging camera batteries and things of that nature. And I just got to see how the backside of the film industry worked, and was also lucky enough to work at a shooting range, and got to take new shooters shooting, and sort of introduce guests to the sport, which was really a fun opportunity. And through the years, I've always had a passion for film and TV production and firearms. So, I got the call a couple months ago, almost a year ago now. And one of the guys that I've been friendly with over the years and we've been shooting with works at Movie Armaments Group in Toronto. And that sort of seemed to be a pretty good fit because for anyone who's not familiar, Movie Armaments Group provides firearms and tactical gear, I guess you could say, to film and TV productions around the city and around the country, and in some cases even around the world. So they called me and said, hey, we've got an opportunity for you to step in and help out. And I couldn't have been more eager. Things just sort of lined up, and I got really lucky in terms of timing. And they needed some help at the shop, and I was happy to step in. And things have been really a hoot, to say the least, ever since. It's a lot of fun. So I get to work with some of the rarest guns in the world. I get to work with one of the most expansive gun collections in Canada, and in some cases, some might even say the world. Like, there's some pretty special pieces in there. It's amazing, like the history that's there, and the new shit compared to the old shit, and like everything that's in that building is just it's a museum. Honestly, it's a museum that we get to operate and dare I say play with, when it comes to certain situations where we have to take these guns to set and work with talented actors in the industry and say, okay, this is how this works and this is how it's done safely. And we work with the crew on set and the talent involved to turn things out that you'll see on Netflix and you'll see on Prime and Paramount and Disney and all these different shows. We get to have a little piece in, and in my opinion, it's kind of the coolest part of every show is when the guns come out, right? So we get to be the guys to make that happen. And yeah, if I'm ever having a tough day, honestly, I just sort of pinch myself and go like, what would 10 or 12-year-old me think of this right now? And immediately, like, the stress just washes away, and I go, yeah, this is pretty fucking cool. So I don't want to brag, but I'm very lucky, and things have turned out in a situation, that I'm just very pleased with, and things are really cool. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, that's awesome. What an opportunity, eh?
Yeah, so I'm going to jump in and say, I was looking at Movie Armaments Group, and I was thinking, how have I heard of you guys before? Because I'm not in the movie industry, but I had heard of you guys. It turns out Forgotten Weapons, Ian Taylor, did an interview with what I presume is your boss, Charlie Taylor.
Yep.
It was 3 years ago now. And he went all in depth about how they're converting firearms into just firing blanks. But he talked about the extensive collection you guys have. And you guys have stuff that's like even hard to find in the US, and there's American studios that are coming up here to borrow your guys' stuff. So that was very cool.
It's definitely a unique place to be. And, when you look at, the south of the border, you think, well, they have everything. But in a lot of cases, depending on how the history is shaken out over the years and certain prohibitions and certain trade embargoes and, just certain events throughout the world, it means that we've ended up with a very different end result. We've got a different collection in this country. In a lot of cases, it's the same and it overlaps, of course, but there's some very interesting differences when you look at who has what and how things have shaken out down there.
That's right. So, I mean, the U.S. had lots of embargoes on, like, sort of communist, countries importing firearms in Canada, or into the U.S. rather.
Yeah, so to be completely honest, I'd be speaking out of turn if I tried to quote any particular historical facts or dates, and I don't know. I can't really quote any particular situation, but I do know that there's certain, as of more recently, there was a very strict list of features on handguns that could be imported into the U.S. and had to have, if they didn't have a certain number of American components in it, it had to meet certain criteria and hit whatever it was, 5 of 10 items on the list. And so because of certain things like that and the way the ATF handles firearm importations and what's legal and what can be registered and however they want to handle it down there versus how we want to handle it up here, certain things have just ended up a little bit different, and it's the same way that, our Glock 19s have an extra few millimeters on the end of the barrel. It's things like that. But if you extrapolate that over the decades, we get some really cool stuff. Just depending on where you sort of land.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you guys are kind of the one-stop shop in Canada. That's kind of my impression. There's nobody else quite like you.
I think it's fair to say there's nobody else quite like us. That's for sure. There are a few other outfits in the country that are providing similar services. And, I, to be honest with you, have only been working with these guys for about a year, and I've really only been in the professional Hollywood side of it for about a year now. So, I can't say there's no competition, and I don't want to speak ill of anybody else that's out there, because I think there's other people out there in Canada doing a fantastic job at this. But from what I've seen, there's no gun collection like Mags, yeah. And it's pretty special. I haven't seen other people's gun vaults, but it would be tough to beat this one, to put it simply.
So how does it break down in terms of, like, you guys got to have like prop guns, deactivated guns, guns that fire blanks, guns that fire real rounds? Like, how does it kind of break down? Like, what do I need if I'm going to go make a movie? Well,
that's a great question. It completely depends on the nature of what you want on camera. So what's in that particular frame and what's in that particular shot before you cut to the next angle or next scene or whatever the case might be. Usually, if it's a larger production, they start with the real firearms, and then they kind of work backwards from there, because they want to pick the guns that look like whatever their character would fire. And in most cases, that's real life guns. So they'll have an idea in mind, and they'll say, what do you have that looks like this, that, or the other? And then we start talking to them. And the first question we ask is, does the gun need to fire? And if it needs to fire, that usually means that we need to have the live version of the gun, as well as most likely a rubber in like a hard and a soft rubber. And that sort of covers the gamut. So we'll usually have soft and hard rubbers, most often a DWAT, depending on the size of the production and the particular scene. If a character carries a gun in their waistband or their police belt for 95% of the series and never pulls it out to shoot it, they can get away with a rubber or a deactivated gun. And, that just means that it's been welded up, or it's obviously a rubber and completely inert. They can fall on it for stunts, and it's not going to break bones and really cause too many injuries. There's a large range of things. So there's no one simple answer. Like, I've had customers come in and they can get away with just a rubber gun because the scene is some crazy guy running down the street, and the particular shot that the director wants is not a close-up. It's a shot of a crazy guy down the road running through the street. And to keep it simple, to keep it cost-effective, we'll give them a rubber handgun, and it might as well be a cell phone in a lot of cases, because with motion blur and with the speed and the action and the way that things are cut together, more often than not, you can get away with something that's completely inert and won't hurt people if you hit them on the head with it. So people tend to go with that whenever possible. Now,
it's got to be cheaper too, given like all the hassle with especially with prohibited and restricted firearms, right?
Yeah, for sure. And the biggest thing is it always comes down to is cost. And when you send anything other than a completely inert object to set, like as in a firearm, we need to go with it. We need to send one of our staff members along with that firearm, because at the end of the day, it's still a restricted, non-restricted, or prohibited firearm. And as we all know, we can't hand that off to somebody, as an illicit transfer without some sort of due diligence. Most of these film people don't have their licenses, and none of them are under our business license. So what we have to do when it comes to restricted and prohibited firearms is actually take the guns with us to set, and we're in direct supervision of those firearms at all times. So at no point do we say to a prop person, here's your gun, it's loaded, have fun with it, we'll be in the trailer, or just bring it back to the shop when you're done. Like that kind of stuff can't happen, because although the gun might be converted to shoot blank ammunition, it's not what the government would consider deactivated. And it's not really, if anybody who took a look at the gun would consider deactivated. You know, it's still designed to fire blank ammunition. It can still be dangerous. It can still be used to cause all sorts of trouble and get people really hurt. So they do need to be taken very seriously. And, you know, we take every precaution when we're on set to make sure that they don't get mishandled. They don't get pointed in the wrong direction. And, you know, when stunt performers are actually pulling the trigger, that the guns are pointed in the safest possible direction to minimize any opportunity of injuries across the board.
That makes sense. So you get into the blank firing guns a little bit. So do you guys have any? I mean, there'd be no reason to have an actually functioning machine gun. They've all been converted to blank firing. Is that correct?
The reason that we don't have them all converted is because we're constantly moving through inventory and directors are constantly asking for the newest and latest and greatest. So what we end up with is, you know, one of the more recent productions that we were working on, this director said, you know, everything has to be as real as possible. And I want the top of the line gear. I want the latest and greatest. So we pulled the strings that we have available to us and we got some of the latest and greatest gear in. And it's things like that that mean, you know, at a certain point, they're in our inventory and we're working on them. You know, we've got one show, the next show, and then we go, okay, something's come in to the country or come into the shop and we go, okay, we've got 3 weeks until this thing needs to be ready. So we allocate the time, we get the conversions done, we do the work that we need to, and we get things through. And the other thing that Movie Armaments Group provides outside of just the film industry stuff is we actually support and have held a lot of contracts with the Department of National Defense, and they do foreign weapons training. So the Department of National Defense will actually utilize some of the firearms in MAG's collection to do foreign weapons training with our soldiers that go out and fight in crazy places around this world where they might find things that aren't made in Canada and aren't too familiar to a westernized soldier, if you would.
That's very cool.
Yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, we've got quite a few neat objects, and you know, more often than not, I would say it's movie-worthy material, and it's all the big stuff that you guys see on the big screen. And you know, to me, that's pretty damn cool.
Absolutely. And like, so when you're doing those blank conversions, you must be modifying the recoil system extensively to ensure, especially for like the semi-autos and full autos, right? To make sure they run. Is that all that you do, or is there more to it?
I mean, for the most part, I'm not really able to get into too specific detail, but what I can tell you is that the overall principle, you know, if you understand the basic fundamentals of ballistics, what you're doing is controlling this explosion that's propelling a projectile down the barrel. And what you get by doing that is a lot of back pressure. So you're containing this explosion for the time that the bullet's leaving the cartridge to the time it leaves the muzzle. And in that time, as much pressure as pushing against the back of that bullet to push it down the bore, you know, you've got, albeit less pressure, but you've still got pressure pushing back. You've got that compression factor within the barrel. And for the most part, that's how most semi-automatic firearms will work in this day and age, is they utilize some recoil or gas operated system that utilizes that back pressure to cycle the firearm and to load the next round. So we don't have projectiles in the blank guns that we're shooting. Obviously, nothing comes out the front end of them, and it's just a cartridge with, you know, in most cases, some gunpowder, maybe a little bit of flash powder, depending on the load. And the brass is just crimped at the front. So what happens is the round goes off, it opens up, and it just shoots gas out the front. There's nothing really fighting that force. So if you were to take one of our blanks and put it in a regular gun, in a handgun or a rifle that you're familiar with at home, you would end up firing one round. There wouldn't be any pressure to cycle back, you know, whether it's a recoil or a gas operated firearm. So what we have to do is simulate that back pressure. And the way that that's done is by restricting, in most cases, I shouldn't say in all cases, but in most cases, it's by restricting the amount of gas that gets forced out of the muzzle, right? If you can imagine, you know, you're blowing through a garden hose, it's pretty easy until you restrict the end down to the size of a pinhole. And all of a sudden you blow into that hose and it it gives you some back pressure. It's the same principle, so you can utilize that back pressure by simulating a projectile by more or less restricting the bore at a certain point. And it's not the case for any and all firearms out there when you're blanking them, but in principle, that's sort of the idea.
Gotcha. So that kind of gets into the next thing, which is the muzzle flash, which is very important for movies.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I've read, and probably a lot of people know, that they put way more flash into the movie guns to get them to really show up on screen than you really should get in person.
Yeah. Generally, I mean, we've got different loads for different situations. For the most part, from everything that I've seen there, we've got full flash, half flash, quarter flash, and then they go down to what you call a solid plug. And that would be the lowest possible amount of gunpowder or propellant in a blank. And the idea with that is that nothing comes out the front end of the gun so that you can get up close and personal, so to speak, without any risk of fire or unburned powder or God knows what. Nothing can come out of the barrel at that point. So depending on the situation, sometimes you're in a tight hallway. Sometimes you're in a warehouse, sometimes you're outside and it's the middle of the day. The cameras generally, if you see a film set, there's a ton of lights and they need a lot of light to make things look like Hollywood. We need to match that with our muzzle flash. And when you go to the range and when you shoot with your friends, especially in the middle of the day, I mean, unless you're shooting a 4-inch barreled AR, even then you're going to have trouble in a lot of cases catching the muzzle flash with your naked eye. So they do need to up the flash factor, if you will. And in a lot of cases, again, I'm not the guy that makes the blank, so I don't want to speak out of turn here. But from what I've been told, it's a mixture of smokeless powder with the primer and in some cases some flash powder. And the flash powder is a chemical compound that's used in special effects and fireworks and similar that just burns really bright. So what you end up with is much more of a muzzle flash with something like a full flash blank than you would in shooting like a live 5.56 round, for example. The difference is huge, and that's to make people go ooh and ah on camera, I guess. It's to really give you that oomph.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it's all about, eh?
Exactly.
So you guys do your own reloading then for you manufacture your own blanks, or is it just commercially available? Kind of what you guys use?
It would be a lot cheaper, I think, if we made our own, but it's very tightly controlled. And the guys that have been doing this, from my understanding, have been doing it since the beginning. And they're sort of like the go-to guys. So we order our stuff from a place in the States, and they have been hit by this ammo shortage because they use primers and brass like the rest of us for all the live stuff. And things have been, they've been getting more expensive from what I'm hearing, just like ammunition has, which is, interesting. It's just something I never would have thought of, but when you put two and two together, you go, yeah, it's, I guess, 80%
like
the same
several
components.
dollars per round type thing.
Yeah, they're not cheap. I'll put it to you that way.
Well, he's expensive for no bullet.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You don't end up hitting your target no matter how much you pay. But, in the end, I think everybody's happy that we do what we do. And you're sitting at home on the couch watching Netflix and, whoever it is that shows up and blasts the bad guy away, it's cool. It ends up looking good. So, yeah, I think it's worth it. And Hollywood's, in many cases, has a deep enough pocket to pay out for the ooh and ah factor. So it works out.
You got to think they got to be going toward more and more towards special effects than like the actual live rounds, right?
It depends. Again, it comes back to, what can they get away with? And a lot of people will think, well, it's cheaper if we just CG it in the end. We'll pay some guy to sit in a studio and, he'll add muzzle flash and gunfire sound effects. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and if you look and you watch enough movies, I should say, if you're more of a cinephile like I am and you end up just watching way too many movies, you start noticing things and you start going, that doesn't look quite right. And, there was certain situations where you see people shooting semi-automatic lever guns with shells ejecting out the side, and nothing happening with the lever, and you're kind of going, I think they missed something there. And some directors don't care, some directors don't know, some people are just backed into a corner where they go, this is the footage that we have, let's do the best we can with it. I think it depends on who's really making the calls. It's sometimes it's the producers, sometimes it's the directors, and they go, I know the difference this makes and I want the real thing, or I know how much that costs and I know a guy who can do the CG for cheaper, or it's tough to say. I think people on set, I'm sure in some situations, appreciate not having real gunfire around. It is loud. We have to hand out ear protection and eye protection, and in a lot of cases cameramen are getting shot at and they're hiding under sound blankets, and it's hectic, and it can definitely be jarring. I know the guns are safe, I know everything there is fine, and to stand in front of that is completely safe, but at the end of the day, you're standing there with a bunch of people with that are shooting at you. That's all it is. And so there's this guttural feeling where even I know I'm the one that loaded those guns, and I'm standing there with the guns pointed at me going, I can see how some people might get uncomfortable with this. So yeah, I understand why some people want to go with the heavier CG approach, and they're just sort of using airsoft guns and then adding gunfire sound effects and shells ejecting and all this sort of stuff to it. It can be done really well. But at the end of the day, your actors are running around shooting airsoft guns at each other, and
pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of these guys that are, requesting off-camera gunfire to react to. And that was actually one of my first days on set, was working for, a pretty big series around here that was just standing in the middle of the road with a Glock 18 in the air, shooting to simulate off-camera gunfire for the main actors. So they were filming these guys that were reacting to this gunfire. And I'm standing around in the middle of this town square with a machine pistol up in the air going, this is kind of a cool job, So yeah, like a lot of actors, want to be able to react to something when you want a reaction out of talent where they flinch and they blink and they go, oh my God, what the fuck was that? It helps. I can't really say anything else. It's a gunshot. So there's a lot of use for that, in my opinion. And there's a lot of people that want the real deal and don't want to wait for computer generated effects, don't want to spend the money on it. And they go, let's spend the money up front. Let's get the real deal. We'll get the actors blinking when the guns go off. It'll look as real as possible. And, that's where we get to really go to work. And I think things look the most authentic. And the only step closer to authenticity past what we do would be to shoot live ammo, which, to my knowledge, they haven't really done since the 1920s, save for, God, can't remember the name of that movie. Act of Valor, was it? I think that one I might be mistaken with the actual name of the film, but it was a Navy SEAL team going in, hostage rescue kind of thing, and they did a lot of live fire on camera, which was pretty badass. We haven't done that, but it looked pretty cool. And I think like that kind of stuff made me want to go see the movie, and turned out pretty good.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up like the reactions from the fire going off. Like I imagine you get a lot better performance out of your like actors and whatnot, just with the more realism that you can get into it. But I was thinking too, like how many gun enthusiasts have you run across in terms of like actors, producers, even like the crew? Like, do you get guys that come up to you that they're like, wow, this is awesome, and they're just super enthused about it?
Definitely. And that's obviously a great part of the job is, when the background actor dressed like a prison inmate comes over to you and goes, oh, hey man, is that an HK416? Yeah, let me check that out. And like, like it's cool to talk to guys like that can appreciate, the rarity of some of these things and like the kind of cool factor. It's not a majority for sure. It's a minority on film sets that I've seen where most people just assume we know what we're doing. We're the gun guys, and they sort of let us do our thing. But I would say every guy, like I can't imagine a gun guy walking past our table and not saying something, you know, like I would ask questions for sure. Like it's, I've run into, I would say at least one, it's more than one on every set that I've worked on so far, where they want to come out and they say, oh, is that real? Is that this or is it that? And, like I can't wait to get my gun license, or, should I even get my gun license? And, other guys come around and they're old hunters and they're going, oh, like this is really cool. And they're looking at the new stuff. And yeah, it's neat. You see all sorts of different people because it's not really a shooting range. It's not somewhere you'd normally run into people who are into guns. So you get a little bit of everything. It's a couple people on each set though that I just went, wow, there's some shooters in the crowd here. This is cool.
Yeah, I was going to ask about movies. So I know that John Wick was shot partially in Montreal. I wonder if you guys had a hand in that at all.
From my knowledge, no.
Okay.
I believe that was done before I jumped on board with them. I believe that was a U.S. crew that came up here and did most of that work. But to be completely honest with you, I'd be speaking out of turn if I said anything else. I'm not sure who did that.
Gotcha.
I would imagine, though, if they shot most of the film in the States and shot a little bit up here, it most likely would have been a U.S. crew. Otherwise, I have a feeling I would have heard more about it.
Gotcha. And so on a movie like that, would you get a feel just from watching it, how much that is real guns, fake guns, CGI?
To be honest with you, I would have to rewatch them. I remember knowing that some of those scenes were definitely airsoft scenes.
Yeah.
And I can't fault them for it, honestly. Like there's certain situations where you just got to get it done. And if an airsoft gun's there and, you don't need to call a gun handler and get him out of bed at 3:00 in the morning to come there with a specific gun and specific ammunition and do it, like that's a hassle, right? And if there's a prop guy there who's got an airsoft gun, do it, if that's what they planned for, good, if that's what they wanted. But there was some airsoft stuff.
Gotcha.
For sure in that movie and in that series.
All
Cool.
right. Well, maybe we could pivot and talk about Canada Guns a little bit. Your website there.
It's more of an Instagram page than a website, but yes.
So, it's a pretty nice website, actually. I'm just looking through it right now.
I
You got
appreciate
a little
that.
shop, and you got some like entertainment news, and
It's been a little
Better
neglected,
news.
so I got to get back on that. And I mean, if there's anybody out there, I don't want to go shopping for help out there. But I mean, if you guys know anybody, or if there's anyone out there that wants to contribute, like I want to have that place generating Canadian content, and if there's anybody who's got anything to say about new guns and Canada and any sort of mix of the two, I just want people out there to have a place to post stuff and to, write articles about their new kit and their new rifle build. And, we put up some cheeky t-shirt designs once in a while and sell some stickers and have some fun. But to be honest with you, it's been a whirlwind starting with these guys, and I've been neglecting it, and I feel awful. So I do need to get back to that. But the Instagram page is, alive and well, and it's running, and that's sort of it's my least neglected, I should say. I'm not a huge fan of social media to begin with, and I find it takes me away from accomplishing, a lot of the actual to-do list items that I have to do, because I enjoy looking at pictures of guns and cool places. And, I want to see someone hunting in Hawaii and, some crazy helicopter stunts, and, it's fun, but I need to get back to that website, and I need to find the time to write some articles and to get people, back to it. But the Instagram page is really just my pet project that's fun. And I like to document just different things that I've got to do, and different opportunities. I started this gun thing. I can't remember. It must have been 2015, 2017, somewhere in there is when, I left the gun range, and I got lucky enough to start working with Funker Tactical, and we just got to fly around the world and, shoot with special forces groups from, Brazil to Europe. And I never made it to Asia, but I'm dying to go.
Yeah.
That's actually the different Canada Guns. So I'm Canada _ Guns. And you'll see a little bit more of, yeah, that's me, the first one there. So yeah, that's what I've been busy with. You know, I make silly, fictitious movie posters of myself, and you know, just little videos and pictures of guns and things that I find interesting. Yeah, you know, I got to do a lot of cool stuff, and I got to do a lot of fun stuff. You know, I found myself on shooting ranges with South American Special Forces, shooting from helicopters, and you know, doing stuff like that. And you know, I just wanted a place to put all of those pictures. And
looks like you've been to a SHOT Show a couple times.
Yeah, SHOT Show, man. Yeah, that's sort of one of my places that I just love. I love and I hate. You know, like it's always such a grind of a week, but it is so much fun, and there are so many cool people there. And like, honestly, the products are cool and they're neat. You know, I love seeing all of the cool stuff that they have to come out with, but I don't love it as much as I love hanging out with all these people from around North America and the world that I don't get to see. You know, and I get to see people from literally, you know, all over the world, from the Middle East to Israel to, you know, Italy and South Africa and Australia and, you know, Asia. All of these people are coming to Las Vegas for a week, and I get to see them and hang out with them and have drinks with them at the Venetian. And, you know, we get to eat dinner together. And like, I just love that. And like, it's a good time. It's good people. And during the day, we get to just hang out and finger fuck a bunch of cool new guns. Like, it's.
Are you going next year?
I'm planning to. I'd like to. I'm working out the logistics right now. I think it's just a debate between how much work I'm going to be doing down there and how much just relaxing and hanging out and seeing people, you know.
Will your company have a table, like a booth at the?
No. I mean, I've been going down there as media for all of these years, and it doesn't really make sense for us to sit down in any one spot. Most of the time, you know, the first few years that I was going down there, it was us going to booths, and it's sort of just stayed that way. You know, it's easier for us to make appointments. We show up at a booth and we say, you know what, don't worry, you keep your people there. You just have someone ready at whatever it is, 10 o'clock, 11, 1. We show up, we talk about whatever products that you want to talk about, and then within 20 to 30 minutes, we're out of their hair. And that's just sort of how we've been running. You know, we just in and out, get the content, and go back to the hotel room, get some food, edit, go out for dinner, and then party way too late, gamble too much, have way too much fun.
Not in Vegas. No way.
No. I'm in bed by 8 o'clock every night there. You know, what can I say? I'm an angel.
Yeah, fuck. We'll have to link up.
Oh, 100%.
I'll be down there this year too. So.
Oh, but Canada Ammo has got an invite to the SHOT Show.
Oh yes, sir.
Amazing.
Wow.
Retailers. So
amazing.
Just have to figure out the logistics.
I want to start just like a fake gun company so I can invite to go down there.
There you go. You can be an employee.
Okay.
There you go.
Easy peasy.
You guys have been before?
No, never have.
Oh man. Yeah, no, this will be a good one. I think everyone's I mean, at least I am. I'm just hungry to see people and, you know, just pretend like it's normal for a week and ignore, you know, everything that we've been stuck in for the past 2 years. I'm just, you know, I want to go down there and have a good time, see people, and just relax, man. The food's great. The people are great. It's a little bit warmer than up here, so it's a good time.
Yeah, I've never even been to Vegas before, so I figure SHOT Show's a good way to break the cherry there.
Yeah.
Diving into the deep end, man. Yeah, that's going to be a good time.
Yeah, bring my real boots.
No, that's great. That's great. Do you guys have a table or a booth, or you just roam?
No, yeah, just going down to just connect.
Yeah, the booths are pretty expensive, I've heard.
Yeah. I think it's worth it for people who need to show product, you know, but if what you're hawking is light enough to carry in a backpack, like it's way cheaper to just walk and talk.
Yeah. And I mean, for us, like half the point of going down is just there's so many Canadian gun folk in the one room, right? Hard to see anybody or hard to find a bunch of Canadians all in one place related to the gun industry, right? So
honestly, man, like it's one of the best networking opportunities for sure. Like the people you meet down there, it's just been fantastic. Everybody's super cool. Everyone's in a good mood. It's a really neat opportunity, and yeah, it's super cool. I don't know what else to say. It's a lot of fun. I'm stoked for you guys. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see you down there.
Oh yeah,
but yeah, back to Canada Guns. I really like that. It seems you're trying to create content to just engage gun owners, and I think that's, or even if you're not gun owner, right, and you're maybe just looking to try it out, or you're enthusiastic about it and haven't taken the next step yet. Like I think that's really what we need, right, to make the culture like very open and inviting. So if you are 18 or 16 and considering getting a firearms license, it's that extra push of, oh, I've seen all this awesome stuff on Instagram. Maybe I can go target shooting or collect this or whatever, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something for everyone in the shooting sports, in my opinion. It's not one of those things that's, like I think it's for more people than golf is for people, honestly. Like, I just think there's so many different disciplines, and like, with something like golf or, cycling or whatever. I mean, maybe cycling's a different opinion or a different story, because there are varieties within that. But like when it comes to shooting, whether it's planking with 22s, rifles, handguns, you're shooting steel targets, you're going for bullseye targets, you're doing long distance stuff. You want to do skeet shooting, you want to do handgun shooting, you want to do, bench rest shooting and super long range stuff. You want to run and gun and do 3-gun competitions. Like, there's so many different things to do. And I'm a true believer that like there is a facet of the shooting sports that I honestly think everyone in the world would just, if they hit their first target, you hit your first clay when you go skeet shooting, it clicks and you go, oh yeah, I want more of that, and you get whatever it is. If you're shooting dimes at 100 yards and you hit it with the 22 and you go, oh fuck yeah, okay, do you think I can get the next one? And like all of a sudden it's like someone's hooked, and it's different for everybody and everyone's got their own flavor. So yeah, for sure. Like, I think it's been, unfortunately stigmatized, and in some cases I get it, and in other cases I kind of go, okay, I get that side of it, but also, do you get the merit of this, that, and the other, and whether it's just a recreational activity or it's a stress reliever, or it's something you do to hang out with your family or your friends, and it's,
or even putting meat on the table, right? Like,
or even hunting,
wide world of hunting, right?
Like 100% hunting, like that's absolutely. Like, there's so many different facets to it, and there's so many different benefits. And yes, there's some bad associations and some bad connections drawn, and I get that. And there's just this stigma that, people might not get their license because someone might think, oh, that guy got the gun license, watch out for him. Or, they might worry about what their family's going to think. Or, I think there's so many weird sort of like nuanced vibes that people, I think, can get. And at the end of the day, it's just unfortunate, because it's such a great sport. It's a really cool, diverse thing. And you can do a little bit of so many different things, and you meet really cool people. Everyone I've met that's into shooting has been cool. Like I can chat with them about something, and there's people I like more than others, don't get me wrong, but I can relate, and I can talk to them, and we can shoot the shit about God knows what, a new handgun, or a jam that their gun's having, or whatever it is. There's just a really cool group of people out there. And like, if there's anyone out there that's like, maybe not, like, just do it, just get it done. And in the worst case, you get your license, you're slightly more educated for it, and you don't have to ever spend money on guns or ammo. Like, I just think it's a cool thing to have. And it's like a motorcycle license. You go out and you get it, more now, you're certified on one more piece of equipment, and it's up to you whether you want to use it and how you want to use it. Is it going to be your daily driver? Or are you just going to have fun with it on the track once in a while? So there's so many different things and so many different angles when it comes to shooting. I think everybody just needs to look into it as an activity, and they'll find something that they like.
It's such a welcoming community, right? I think
It
that's
really is.
you hit it on the head. You can talk to anybody that likes guns. You'll like some people more than the other, but you can talk to anybody that's into firearms about whatever, right? And it's like that's kind of what we're trying to do at the CUSF too, right? Is just build those communities on campus of people that are enthusiastic and they're safe and they want to have fun and go out for the million of different sports or hunting or whatever, right? But just connecting like-minded and expanding the people's minds that haven't had the opportunity to experience it, right?
No, I love that, and I love everything that you guys are doing. Like I was telling you before we jumped on here, like if my university had a shooting club, I probably would have stuck it out. You know, I probably would have stayed in school, to be honest with you. You know, that would have been a really cool networking opportunity and a cool activity. And, you know, you just get to know cool people and like-minded people, and you have something cool to do after class. Like, I think that's super cool. And I love it.
That's why you went back to school, eh, Michael? Couldn't stay away from the gun 5 club. years wasn't enough. You need more.
So awesome. Well, yeah. Anything else you wanted to touch on there, Ben?
Honestly, just thank you guys for doing what you do. Like, this is super cool. And like I was just saying, I think what you guys do is really awesome. And, you know, the very little that I know about you guys is amazing. And I'm really looking forward to learning about more of what you guys do and working together with you, and definitely seeing you down in Vegas. And yeah, I'm happy that you guys are doing what you're doing. I'm happy that it's going well. And I love to see young people in the shooting sports and enjoying it and doing it responsibly and safely. So the more that we can promote that and support that, I am 100% down.
Absolutely. And yeah, huge thank you for coming on.
Oh, man, this was amazing. Yeah, anytime, man. This was a good time.
And yeah, maybe we can do some sort of internship or something for Canada Guns if we find a student that's passionate about and create some content, right?
Absolutely. And yeah, at some point soon, if we can do this again, I'll have some toys for you guys to look at. I'll see what strings I can pull there, so we'll get to take a slightly closer look at anything that you guys want to see.
Fucking right, it's a little tour, eh?
Oh, I'll see what I can do.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm sure Swally is regretting missing this one, eh, Michael?
Definitely.
So,
all right.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. Again, big thank you, Ben. And yeah, you can be found at. Why don't you let us know where people can find you?
Canada_guns would be best place on Instagram. And if not on Instagram, www.canadaguns.com.
Beauty. And Movie Armaments Group at Movie Armaments Group on Instagram.
At Movie Armaments Group on Instagram, and www.moviearms.com if you want to check us out on the web.
Awesome.
Thank you very much, guys.
Well, thanks for joining us. Any final words, Michael?
All good.
All righty. Have a good night, guys.
Right on, you too. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See ya.
Fuck, this is where Swally usually does it. This.
Thank you again for tuning in. We meet again on the next podcast.